There are a countless amount of movies, novels, short stories, art, even comic books that describe their works as Lovecraftian. And this usually means a horror type of story that involves squids and water. So I think most of these only scratch the surface of what Lovecraftian is. To really do Lovecraftian like Lovecraft, you need to walk in his shoes, and Howard Philip Lovecraft had a very privileged start to his life, but ended up impoverished, demoralized, and unable to make any kind of living off his stories. I'm not doing a biography of him, there's already a bunch of those on YouTube. I just want to go over a little of his life to explain how he may have ended up writing what he did and why so many people get it wrong. He was born into a well-to-do family. Most people at that time lived really hard lives without any social programs to rescue you if you were destitute, and very few children grew up like he did. In 1942, Massachusetts passed one of the first state laws banning children under 12 from working in factories. It wasn't until the 1930s that some of the first child labor laws were even passed nationally. I can get why children raised in these conditions would grow up to write horror stories, but not the children of the wealthy. They wrote poetry, autobiographies, romance, or medical and science manuals. Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, by Mary Shelley, was described as gothic in science fiction, not horror. Lovecraft stories came to be called cosmic and eldritch horror. Cosmic horror emphasizes the unknowable and incomprehensible more than gore or elements of shock. The word eldritch means weird, sinister, or ghostly. But his privileged childhood didn't last long. As a young boy, his father was committed to a psychiatric hospital in Providence. He spent 5 years there, then died, possibly from syphilis. Lovecraft resided in the family home with his mother, his aunts, and grandparents. His grandfather was a successful businessman and became a father figure. He encouraged Lovecraft to have an appreciation of classical literature and English poetry. At the age of 9, Lovecraft took an interest in astronomy and chemistry, so some of that probably played a role in his cosmic horror. By 1900, his grandfather's businesses were suffering a downturn, which resulted in the erosion of his family's wealth. Then his largest business failed, and a few months later, he died at the age of 70 due to a stroke. After his death, his mother was unable to financially support the upkeep of their large family home, and she was forced to move to a small duplex with her son. So he went from having everything a boy could want in life to losing his father, grandfather, and all of that money and security. If you're raised in poverty, you're not surprised by how scary and brutal life can be, and I think the shock of all this stayed with him into adulthood. He once tried to enlist in the army and serve in World War I, but his mother was able to interfere with this and keep him from joining, so she was very protective of him. But she had a mental breakdown and was admitted to a hospital where she died a few years later. Along the way, he met a woman named Sonia Green and married her in 1924. She was also a writer, and they moved to New York and she opened a hat shop. So it seems like a pretty normal life, but he just had trouble functioning in society. His wife said that she was drawn to his intellect and genius, aiming to nurture him despite his abysmal depths of loneliness and psychological complexes. Lovecraft had trouble getting published and worked menial, low-paying jobs. Green lost her hat shop and suffered poor health conditions. He couldn't support them both, so his wife moved to Cleveland for employment. He lived by himself and came to dislike New York life. He kept trying to sell his stories but wasn't having much success. His wife sent him a weekly allowance that helped him pay for a small apartment. She slept there 1 or 2 days out of the month. His apartment got robbed and he lost what little he had, so he moved back to Rhode Island. He and his wife divorced, although he never signed the paperwork, so unknowing to her, they were legally married until his death. During the Great Depression and the rumblings of another world war, he was getting ill but had a fear of doctors. He died from cancer in 1939 in poverty at the age of 46. He didn't become famous until well after his death. There isn't much in his biography that says he was a victim of some violent crime that would make him scared of strangers, so maybe that's why he didn't write about home invasion horror or true crime or slasher horror. I don't think most people who label their work Lovecraftian don't really do Lovecraftian, because they're just not really going deep enough into who Lovecraft is. When our lives are falling apart, we usually give up on our hobbies and dreams. Lovecraft kept writing up to the very end, even while in poverty and dying. Most think his stories only got better towards the end of his life. His monsters like Nyarlathotep, known as the Crawling Chaos, is an outer god, embodying chaos, madness, deceit, and manipulation, serving as the active messenger for the slumbering outer gods. The Necronomicon contains forbidden lore, spells, rituals, and histories about ancient and powerful entities that can drive readers insane, summon monsters, and reveal cosmic truths. Azathoth is the ultimate omnipotent creator, described as a lord of all things, where reality itself is merely a figment of its dream. Cthulhu is a giant monster with an octopus-like head, bat-like wings, and clawed hands. It attacked through madness and terror, causing a person to go insane, which then killed them. Both his parents ended up in psychiatric hospitals where they died, and how could this not have affected his writings? The horror in his stories wasn't about tentacle creatures. He used these monsters to try to explain how humanity is insignificant in a vast, uncaring universe, and a paranoia about forbidden knowledge that can lead to madness. Lovecraft was an atheist, so none of this had to do with a god that you can pray to help in your darkest moments. His stories had godlike entities who were indifferent to human suffering and bring on the collapse of civilization. It wasn't dystopian, it was dread and foreboding of knowing that ultimately, no matter what he does, there won't be any happy ending for him or for the rest of us. Good night.
Boo.